Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network, and I have Mike with me.
Good morning, sir, and good morning to our viewers out there.
We first start, of course, from local scene where the Nigerian President Ahmed Tinubu is very happy with the performances of Eniola Bolaji, a badminton player at the ongoing Paralympic Games. The 18-year-old made history by winning bronze medal in the women's badminton SL3 category, being the very first African athlete to secure a medal at the badminton Para Games. This is sharing. No African so far had to bet Eniola winning a medal at the Paralympic Games.
I think it's a very cheering news for the Badminton Federation and to Nigeria and to Africa as a whole, because I think for Eniola Bolaji, she's been able to at least make a difference out there, because no African player have ever won any medal at the badminton event in the international scene. So for me, I think it is a very big one, and the encomium that she's receiving from different quarters is really deserving because of her exploits.
Talking about the exploits of Eniola, who have won a bronze medal at the ongoing Paralympic Games, the first African so far in 2024 to win the medal at the games going on in Paris. Talking about medals for Nigerians, or Africans, so to say, at the Paralympic Games, Team Nigeria have seen the exit of Christina Alabi, Abiola Deshope, and of course Kayode away from the table tennis event, but there seems to be just one medal hope for Nigeria in table tennis.
It's a big struggle. It's a big struggle for us in this year's Paralympic game event, especially for the angle of tennis, where we had some level of pride because we actually won, some medals in terms of the tennis event. I mean, this is one of the area where we expected some of our players or some of our athletes, to at least get something. The table tennis event and also powerlifting. These are some of the key areas where, and for me, it's quite disappointing. 7 out of 8, table tennis players have been hosted out of the competition, and we just have our hope, and our egg is now placed on one man to shoulder the burden of making sure that at least we win something out of the table tennis event. For me, it has been a struggle for Team Nigeria generally in the ongoing Paralympic Games.
Talking about table tennis, one of the areas where Nigeria had hope to make medals, we saw 7 out of 8 table tennis players crash out. Meanwhile, we have Adebola, who has maintained his journey so far over. He's the only hope right now in the tennis event. This one man who we hope he can join Eniola to get to the podium as the maybe second African and the second Nigerian to at least get to the podium at the Paris Paralympic Games, because like we mentioned before, we are not into so many sports, but I think it could just turn out to be one where Nigeria has not had a very good outing. Across still at the Olympic Games, we understand Paralympic Games, former Russian athlete Tatiana Komashava has been stripped of our 2020 Olympic 1,500 silver medal for doping. This is coming from the Court of Arbitration for Sports, and if you are stripped, you remain stripped.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm rather very disappointed about the long duration where it took the Court of Arbitration for Sport, talking about CAS, to come out with this decision, because don't forget,
10-year ban.
Yes, a 10-year ban, and this is a doping offense that took place in 2012. 2012 till now is about 12 years down the line. So for me, I think I'm very worried about the longevity of the years it took them before they could come up with this decision, because a 10-year ban for an athlete that is 48 right now. So before she could finish serving her 10-year ban, she should be 58 or thereabouts. So for me, I think this is another angle they need to also consider. Quick dishing of justice would be more preferable for me, because you don't wait until 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. This one we are talking about is 12 years down the line, and this is when they are coming up with such a decision. I think for me, in as much as it is a good one to serve as a deterrent to others who may want to take drug enhancing performance things or steroid of that nature, they will keep away from it. But the long time that it took them before coming up with this decision is the only angle I'm not very much satisfied about.
Legal tussles there, but eventually it's been a 10-year ban for the corporates. You don't taint your system. Meanwhile, we'll get back to the local scene where President of the Badminton Federation of Nigeria, Francis Obi, has reiterated the essence of Lagos International Badminton Classic, whose 7th edition was completed at the weekend in Lagos, Nigeria. Badminton is beginning to gain prominence here in Nigeria with the organization of several events under Francis Obi.
Yes, especially the one that take place in Lagos State, where we have so many foreign players also coming in this very one. I think if we can also sustain this, developmental process of continue to organize active game, maybe quarterly or half a year or yearly basis, it can go a whole long way to also help us to harness more talent out of it. But one interesting aspect of this year's edition is that the regular face is the regular country. Talking about India, they continue to have a total dominance because they wiped away about 4 gold medals out of 5. 4 out of 5. So for me, I think the Indians, they continue to dominate their proceedings. One may say, well, we hosted and we couldn't win anything. It is not all about hosting and winning. It's about discovering talent, which for me, I think, should be the line of thought out there. But then, big congratulations to, the Indians who also, cleared all the, medals, almost all, because like I said earlier, 5, they won 4 out of 5 golds.
Badminton in favor of India, and just concluded event in Lagos. We just hope that there could be further scouting from this tournament, because we need to have Nigeria's very best. Indians have taken 4 out of 5 gold medals in this edition, but let's hope that talents are being discovered from the event. Let's go to basketball, and starting with basketball in the local scene here, defending champions, Mountain of Fire Basketball Club in the female category have all won their first 2 games at the Women Basketball Championship ongoing in Lagos. One of the conferences, that's the Atlantic Conference, entered into very top gear, at the weekend.
Yeah, I think it's a very exciting one when he actually kicked off, over the weekend. I think I'm very excited because it also helped us to continue to develop, basketball. Now that basketball in the country is on the surge, you saw what Rivers Hoopers did in the just concluded African Championship, where we were able to make a name for ourselves. Then it transcends to the senior national team, talking about the D Tigress, winning the Afro Basketball Championship under Rena Wakama within a short period of time that she was drafted into the team to, tinker the team around. We also went to the Olympic game, did pretty well, created a record that no any African team has also done before, getting to the quarterfinal, beating teams that were ranked above us. So for me, I think it's a nice one. Hence, the league has kickstarted in NSO. Should also do well to also monitor the progress of individual players from their different clubs out there. And of course, if you head to the MFM, I think they have great players out there. First Bank as well, not also doing bad, winning their first 2 games to show that indeed they are still a force to be reckoned with, because First Bank, they were former champion, MFM defending champion, winning your 2 straight games. It clearly tells the other teams that indeed they are ready this time around.
Female basketball at the weekend, ensuring that we have some top teams. I remember Bayelsa Wills taking out Sunshine Angels in that fixture. It was 35-29 just a few days ago. And again, we've seen Delta Force defeat the Inspector General Police Queens 45-37 before losing to First Bank only yesterday. Meanwhile, the Savannah Conference is taking place in Lafia. That's in Nasarawa State, where Royal Aces yesterday defeated Air Warriors 64-63. Tight victory match, I must tell you. Nigerian Army walked over Titans 20-0 as the Nigerian Custom defeated Plateau Specs by 71-38. The last match of the day, of course, saw Nasarawa Babes losing 53-47 to Kada Angels. Meanwhile, across, let's do talking about basketball. It reminds me that several Nigerians have taken to social media to shade the South African consulate for initially denying Nigerian under 18 boys basketball players visas for the Afro Basketball Men under 18 competition ongoing in South Africa. But at the end of the day, head of the delegation, Ugo Dweze, confirmed that the team were later issued visas and they are already expected to arrive Pretoria today.
Yeah, I think it was quite disappointing when that news filtered in a few hours ago that the South African embassy denied our under 18 visa, and they were supposed to have their first game, that yesterday. I don't know how they are going to go about it. I learned that the Nigerian Basketball Federation actually reached out to the authority, talking about FIBA, to lodge the complaint against the South African. I think for me, it also boils down to how administratively we were up and doing, because I expected the Nigerian Basketball Federation, to have sorted these things out maybe a week, prior to this time. You don't wait until the dying minute before you start, sorting this kind of issue out. So for me, I think it's about, proper planning, making the right move, taking the right action at the right point in time, because if we had taken the right move at the right point in time, maybe a week or even 5 days before now, we wouldn't be having this challenge of, the South Africa not issuing us a visa, which for me, I don't know what the intention were for the South African authority. But one thing is very certain, that, at least we've, gotten the visa and the boys are there right now. But then it will go a whole long way to distract the players mentally. Immediately they heard that their visa were not granted, most of them will lose hope. Most of them will lose their faith, and their confidence level will be very, very low. But let's hope that they can be able to at least find some positive away from all this distraction, and get to play their game properly and achieve a positive result.
Positive result for Nigeria expected, but somehow I really do not understand the mix-up between the organizers of, the handlers of the under 18 boys, the Nigerian Basketball Federation. Their counterparts, the females, who was in Cote d'Ivoire for the qualifier, came back and they were granted visas. I would have thought that these visas would have been arranged at the same time when they went to the embassy for that of the girls. So for the boys as well. But in this instance, the under 18 girls had their visas and arrived on time, and the boys had to go into this mix-up that led to late arrival. I understand they were supposed to meet Egypt yesterday, but because of arrival of the team today, that had to be taken off the cards.
And that is why I'm trying to, throw the blame against the Nigerian Basketball Federation. If the under 18 girls had been granted visa even before yesterday, that this visa issue came up, why not do that, simultaneously, where they were organizing the visa for the female team as well? So it's about, not doing the right thing, like I said, at the right time. And of course, some of the delegation actually went to South Africa first, and they were waiting for our contingent to arrive. How do you leave, the real key players of the game behind, and you went there first to go there and settle down and wait for them? It doesn't work out that way. So I think we should be up and doing the right thing. When the under 18 girls were granted visa, what happened that those visa for the men's category were not processed at the same time, so that it make it very easy? So it's about not properly organizing ourselves, because if we had, I don't think we should be facing this kind of issue of visa challenge from the South African authority.
Well, I would hope that there will be proper organization next time, and I hope the boys, as they arrive today, will be in a good state to continue in the competition. Let's stay away from that imbroglio in basketball and now go to tennis. And the US Open is the biggest tennis event ongoing right now in the world. And in Flushing Meadows, last night we saw qualifiers for the semi-final at the, especially in the female version ongoing at Flushing Meadows. Arina Sabalenka, finalist last year, has returned to the semi-final of this year's US Open. She took out a counterpart from China, Zheng Qing, in a straight set, 6-1, 6-2. It looks easy for the world number 2.
Very impressive display, especially when so many persons expected, this one to be a very tough game, considering the fact that the, Chinese was just coming back from victory at the Paris Olympic game. You expected her to up her ante against Arina Sabalenka, who also is not a very bad player at all. She's done well so far in the last 12 months, just that she has nothing tangible to show for it, talking about titles. And this is the last Grand Slam of the year. You expect some of these top guns to at least, be up and doing, so that they will finish very high for, the season. So for me, I think it was a big victory for Arina Sabalenka, the world number 2. Let's hope that she can continue to fire from all cylinders, possibly get to the final and see if she can make this one count. Now that the defending champion has been knocked out early in the competition, I think the door is even open and wide open for Arina Sabalenka to make it count.
Arina Sabalenka in the semi-finals of the U.S. Open. She has one more American to take care of. This time around, it will be Navarro, the home girl, and already she's appealing to the crowd to support her. Remember last year, it was Coco Gauff, American, and the crowd was very partisan. For the kind of crowd I saw last night at the Flushing Meadows, all of them supporting the American. Do you think her appeal of even buying drinks for the spectators will see the light of the day when she comes up against another home girl?
Yeah, just maybe an additional, motivation from the home fans. Of course, the Americans, they always want to support their own. It's about a rallying call, out there to come and for the Americans to queue behind her, give her that moral and physical support out there on the court so that she can deliver. But then it goes beyond getting the backings or the support of the fans out there. She needs to also do her own home job properly, because if you get the backing of the fans, the support of the fans, without you, perfecting your own game plan, it could also come back to hurt you. But like I said, if she does her homework properly, then also wait for the backings of the 12th men, talking about the fans out there, then I think it's going to be a positive addition for her going forward.
Well, today at the U.S. Open, we'll see another top action in the female category. Iga Swiatek, world #1 in the female tennis, is up against another American girl, Jessica Pegula.
Another big game, massive clash out there. And of course, the fans of Jessica Pegula also, going on social media to also drum the support as usual. But then for Iga Swiatek, I think she's not perturbed, because this is one player that have maintained the #1 ranking for a quite long time as it is right now. There's nothing, not especially this year, where she has not been able to win any major. She won't be bothered about the backing of the fans against her. I still think that Iga Swiatek has what it takes to overcome this very one and possibly get to the final.
World #1 Iga Swiatek up against world #6 Jessica Pegula of the United States of America. It promises to be very thrilling later today. In a bid to qualify for the semi-final, Brazilian girl Beatriz Herder is up against an unseeded Mushukova. This one looks interesting. Beatriz from Brazil is rated as the world #22 in female tennis, but coming up against a relatively, unseeded player. This promises to be, for me, maybe a one-sided affair. But this is tennis; it could go the other way.
Yeah, this is exactly what I wanted to say, but you took it off my mouth. This is tennis. It could go either way. For Beatriz Herder, a very good player, but then for the Brazilian as well, don't also forget Muchova. For this year's edition, we've seen so many shockers. We saw where a 74th ranked player was able to defeat the world #2 as it is. We've seen relatively unseeded players as well, pulling upset, springing upset here and there in this year's U.S. Open. So for me, I don't expect it to be a roller coaster ride for Beatriz Herder. It's going to be a very tough one, because the Brazilian, I tell you, having watched a clips of her game, she's also not a bad player at all, and anything can happen. But I expect the game to be a very, very tough encounter.
U.S. Open ongoing in the United States of America with a massive crowd attendance at the games. One of the prominent spectators at the game is Roger Federer. You remember him, legend in tennis by all standards. What do you make of this year's attendance by Roger Federer? It looks like the very first after he has retired from tennis.
Yeah, I think I haven't retired from tennis, but then I think the allure and the love for tennis also keep him going. That is why I want to be, at the present where it is happening, talking about the U.S. Open. This is a legend of the game. We can't take away what he's brought to the world of lawn tennis out there. So having him out there, at the U.S. Open is a further, plus for the organizers out there, because that will also help to even increase the attendance of the fans out there. Don't forget that some of these fans who haven't, seen Roger Federer during his 8 days out there, but with this opportunity, I think so many of them out there want to turn out, to the court to cheer their, very players to victory, and also have a glimpse of Roger Federer after retirement. So for me, I think it's a good one for the competition itself.
Your Federer, legendary tennis player at the U.S. Open out there. Let's see what is happening in the male category. Mike, it looks very interesting. After appearing 4 times at the quarterfinal stage and not progressing to the semi-final, Taylor Fritz right now in local palace jumped and passed the quarterfinal stage at the U.S. Open after beating Alexander Zverev in what looks like a cracker of a fixture. I watched that game from start to finish, in the late last night, and it was 7-6, 3-6, 6-4, 7-6. Alexander Zverev pushing Taylor Fritz despite the partisan support from the American crowd out there.
Yeah, what a scintillating game out there. It was more like a back and forth, keenly contested game per se. But then for me, I think I was surprised that Zverev, gave up because looking at their run this year in terms of their game plan, I think Zverev has been more active, in the last 12 months compared to Taylor Fritz. But then this is the game for you. You expect the unexpected, but it was an interesting game to watch, I tell you. At some point, the fans had to even, add more flair to it, where they began to cheer, and some were booing out there as well. So for me, I think it's a big, big one for Taylor Fritz. Having make it 4 good times in this very stage without crossing it this time around might just be the stepping towards his success this year. But then there are still a lot of other big name players that you need to also start preparing ahead, because definitely he must come up against one of these big players.
Taylor Fritz, no doubt, getting to the semi-final of the U.S. Open. No American in the last 21 years have been to the semi-final of the U.S. Open. Now, with the return of Zverev, I think the last person was who won in 2023 to qualify at the semi-final stage. So let's see. Daniil Medvedev is up. Rossi is the other guy, and comes up against a very difficult opponent today.
Yeah, for Daniil Medvedev, I think he's been talking very tough against today's counter. He made it very clear yesterday when he won an interview that he's prepared and ready for whatever. So for me, I think it's going to be another big clash. We hope to see the best of long tennis out there. Most of the fans out there, even during the interview, were also, cheering already. Promising to be there for him on the court this evening, and I think it's going to be a very tough encounter, because
also we get a very difficult player. Yannick Sinner,
world number one.
World number one in male tennis. Yannick Sinner from Italy is not playing badly so far after winning, of course, the what do you call it now? The medal, his first Grand Slam. He's looking at getting a second Grand Slam, and it looks like his performance so far at the U.S. Open looks good enough for taking him to the final.
Yeah, possibly, because despite the fact that he had a little bit of distraction before coming into this one, the distraction of being cleared of any doping issues, where some of ex-players as well, took up to the social media to also air their own displeasure about the fact that he was cleared, to take part after, they fined him twice failing a dope test, but yet he was still cleared, though he was fined with a heavy amount of money. Then some point he deducted away from, his point. Coming into this year's U.S. Open under that, under that environment, so many persons thought that it's going to be, more like a distraction and mentally not unstable, for him to focus on this year's U.S. Open. But then I think he has proven to many out there that he has the mental capacity to withstand some of these challenges and distraction, and that is why he has gotten to this far. So I tell you, like I said, it's going to be a very, very tough game, because this is the last Grand Slam of the year, and he didn't do well in the Olympic. So I believe he's going to use this one as his last shot to make at least a very, very good finish so far for this year. Not also forgetting the fact that he knows that Novak Djokovic and Carlos Alcaraz are closely behind him in terms of point and in terms of ranking. He definitely needs to win this one to at least get some more points and continue to stay as the world number one as it is right now. But all things being the same, we are expecting a very, very fantastic match today.
Very fantastic fixture coming up later today, Yannick Sinner and his opponent. And talking about what happened last night at the U.S. Open, we saw a situation where Tafio did emerge over Grigor Dimitrov. It was one encounter as well that was very fierce. And now, for the first time, we're having two Americans in the semi-final. I don't know which person in the crowd will be supporting now because we've seen very partisan support at the U.S. Open. But now it's going to be Tafio against Taylor Fritz. Both of them Americans, in the semi-final stage of the U.S. Open.
For Tafio, I think he did a very great job. But coming against Taylor Fritz, another American that have also had a massive, fan base. I think most of the fan will tilt towards the angle of, Taylor Fritz because of the fan base that he has out there. He has been very consistent in the last, years. He just couldn't discover his form, earlier this year, and that is why we've not seen him make any serious impact in most of the Grand Slam, for this year. And for Stefo, he's another player that is trying to revive back his career after losing that, that flair that we used to know of him. So I think the crowd will be divided, on either side. But I tell you, it's going to be a massive game because these two players will be ready, to at least make a very big, serious statement as they intend to come back to, serious reckoning, maybe with the likes of Yannick Sinner, Carlos Alcaraz, because in the past, there were some of the names that have been muted or that was being tipped to become the new gem, the new generation after the old hands. Maybe Rafael Nadal, Novak Djokovic, have left the scene, but then they never live up to that expectation. Before you could say that Yannick Sinner came from behind to challenge, and now he's toppling the world #1. But one thing is very certain, it's going to be an interesting game.
Very interesting fixture. If you remember, the last time we saw Americans, pair of Americans in a major was 2005. That's like 19 years ago. We've never seen two Americans, at a crucial stage of a Grand Slam. So I think the Americans definitely, for this one taking place in New York, it will be an interesting one where we'll see where the support will go. Will it be for Tafio, who has been around for a while, or it will be one of the first entrant in the semi-finals, Taylor Fritz at the U.S. Open. We'll keep our fingers crossed on the latest happening from Flushing Meadows, the last Grand Slam of the year. When we return from the break this time, as we prepare, we'll bring you latest information coming from the world of football. A lot is happening, and I can tell you it is just about 48 hours to the very crucial encounter between the Super Eagles of Nigeria and their counterparts from Benin Republic in a bid to qualify for the 2026 World Cup. Will us in the Guavara side be able to Ghana? We understand most of the players in camp, just but 3 are being expected in Uyo ahead of this clash. When we return from the break, we'll have a lot of details from that. And of course, the latest two with Victor Osimhen, who has already arrived at Turkey to complete formalities to joining Galatasaray. Stay with us. Let's go on a break. Welcome back. This is Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network, and on this half of the program, we'll bring you football stories. We'll tell you how the U.S. Open has entered into the semi-final stage with certain pairings there as well. at the ongoing Paralympic Games in Paris. It's been a difficult one for Team Nigeria, but they will have won just one bronze medal so far. But then it's spectacular because it is one for Nigeria and one for Africa so far out there. So let's hope it will get better, and we've seen some kind of a last-minute rush to see whether we can get ourselves on the podium out there in Paris. Now let's bring you up to speed with the latest happening in football. We start from the local scene where this year's edition of the Bestie Obaseki Women Football Tournament gets underway. Mike, this has been an edition, just a tournament that has been around for a while. We understand this year's edition will take place in October 2nd to the 13th. And as usual, the winner of this competition go home with very large amount of money, not too common in female football.
Yeah, I think it's a nice one, and I think I want to also thank the wife of the governor because they have actually sustained this. It's not a one-off thing. We've seen it. This is about the third edition of it. Consistency is the key out, and this year's edition we are having some, foreign teams, from Benin Republic as well. That is going to be part and parcel of this very one. I think it is also good for women football development. It's about giving the girls child, that platform to express themselves and also, brood their talents to get to the next level as it is. And for me, the prize money is also encouraging. 10 million naira, for the first place. I think it's a very, very, even if you get to finish fourth, you go home with 3 million naira, which is something very good as well. So we must also commend the organizers, giving the girls child hope and also helping them to nurture, the talent that God has given to them. It's about the girl child development. It's about giving them the platform to express their talent. It's about consistency on what the governor's wife want to do. And I think I must also congratulate them for, especially the organizers for deeming it necessary to also sustain, the momentum which they kickstarted about 3 years ago.
Well, congratulations to the wife of the Edo State governor for putting this one up and aim at ensuring that there's no teenage pregnancy. There's something to take off the girls from the streets out there in Benin City. This is the first time we're having foreign club sides join the local club side. Most of the top female teams, Rivers Angel, Rattles, and Nasarawa Babes are all taking part in this competition that promises to be a thriller ahead of the opener of the season. Talking about opening of the season, the Nigerian Premier Football League is off and running with the first game played last weekend between Rangers International and the Academy Warriors. There will be return fixtures this weekend in the Premier League, but something seems to have changed about the Premier League. Mike, we understand that Beyond Limit, one of the teams that qualified for the Premier League, registered for this season, will no longer be part of action because the position has been taken by Heartland FC of Owerri. What could have happened?
Yeah, the extant rules that governs the Nigerian Premier Professional Football League actually kick against a single owner owning a majority stake in two different clubs out there, because the owner of Beyond Limit is just the owner of Remo Stars as well, talking about Kunle Tsunami, and it is against the extant law that governs the league out there, and that is why they will not be part and parcel of this one. They have actually ceded their slots to Heartland, who also went on relegation. And according to the release by the NPFL board, the Heartland is the only club that meets the criteria. And previously we were discussing about the fact that Heartland had to pay the sum of 30 million naira, but the league body have come out to make it very clear that there was no such transaction because it is not in the rule book that governs the game out there. It's just that Heartland actually met the criteria, and that is why they were given the slot of.
If I may ask, what is the criteria? Because from what I understand, they only apply to take up the slots. This was not common knowledge to maybe others. What they're saying is that it was only Heartland that applied.
Yeah.
I'm sure if this was made public, they say, okay, look, this position is vacant.
Yeah.
Maybe the other teams that were relegated could have applied for as well. But in this instance, it looks like it wasn't made public, and before we knew, we were just told that their slot has been taken by Heartland FC. For me, it looks like a little bit of underhand deals in this one.
That is the same line of thought because while releasing the statement, they did not actually enlist the criteria to which a club gets to
No,
meet.
the criteria is that if there's a position, it's only that such position is only given to the team who applied to take up the position. But what would you know? How many teams applied for the same one position? Was it only Haaland or there were other teams? But Haaland met up maybe came first or some other yardstick. But well,
it looks as though for me there is a monkey business in it, and so many times our activities right here is shrouded in secrecy. That is why it's very difficult, because there is no way you can tell me that it is only Heartland that also apply. If they had made it public, I think many other clubs would have even put up the application, but then I think it left for the Nigerian Premier Football League to fathom that out. But I tell you, it is not a good one. Hence, they want to make it, secret. It's not a good one because there are some other intending clubs that have met the criteria, that have what it takes to even, afloat such club in the Nigerian Premier Football League. But as the information was not was sketchy to this club, how could they apply? How could they have applied? So for me, I'm sensing maybe more like a hanky-panky play, in it.
Well, let's go across now to the latest coming from the Super Eagles camp in Uyo. There was the first training section yesterday between the players and, of course, interaction with the coaches as well. Mike, about 18 players are already in camp. Just 3 or so are being expected. What do you make of the Super Eagles camp already bubbling in Uyo?
I think it's a good sign for me because some of these players in camp already, they played in their different club side over the weekend. But before Monday, some of them have started right. Even as at Monday, 11 players had already hit camp. On Tuesday, we saw the number begin to increase. As it is this morning, from the latest report, there are about 20 players in the camp. Just left about 3 players, which is Kelechi Hanacho, Victor Osimhen, and Maduka Okoye, the fine boy. So these are just the few players that are left. But I tell you, the mood in the camp is very, very exciting. I had to go and watch the behind-the-scene training of the team yesterday. I think I'm seeing a lot of positivity. There seems to be a lot of understanding among the players and the coaching crew. Don't also forget that Osne Guavon is a disciplinarian. Fidelis Ilechukwu of Rangers as well. Daniel Odede. These are disciplinarian, and of course you expect them to at least get the backings of the player out there. So if there's anything to go by from what I saw in the camp yesterday in their training session, I tell you the Super Eagles is ready for this very one.
Super Eagles up against their counterparts from the Benin Republic this weekend at the Godswill Akpabio Stadium in New York. Trust me, I should be in the stadium to watch that one for you out there. But it's getting very dicey. We had 2 Nigerian coaches appointed to join Osne Guavon to tinker that team. Of course, of the coach of Rangers International and, of course, Remo Stars, all joining there. Daniel Gumudede of Remo Stars and Fidelis Ilechukwu of Rangers International. Another coach now got a national team job, talking about Aliu Zuberu of Academy Warriors. We understand he will now be the new head coach of the Flying Eagles of Nigeria, the under-20 side.
A very big congratulations to him, and I guess it's because of the exploit he did, bringing Academy Warriors back to the top flight league, also taking them to the President Federation Cup final and also winning that very one. This might just be the criteria why he was given the job. I think for me, let's hope that he can be able to tinker this team around and get.
This is a team handled by Ladam Bosu.
Yeah. Ladam Bosu has been there over a while, but we've not seen any tangible, improvement from the system, and I guess this is the reason why they are letting go of Ladam Bosu to bring in, Zubairu.
Zubairu, winner of the FA Cup in 2023-2024 football season here in Nigeria. We hope that he will bring his wealth of experience to the team out there. Like I mentioned to you, this appointments recently been made by the Nigerian Football Federation. 2 coaches going across to assist in the head coach of the Super Eagles in interim capacity. We hope that by the time the appointment will be made, maybe one of them should be able to, but then they'll have to return back to their club side immediately after this assignment this weekend, and of course 3 days thereafter against Rwanda. And let's hope that it will continue. And talking about coaches' appointment, we understand there is 1 or 2 coaches appointed as well. Gombe United, though relegated, have a new coach.
Yeah, and they've also charged him as well to make sure there is first a primary aim or priority is to make sure that at least Gombe United bounces back to the top flight, having gone to relegation this last season because of their poor outing. They've brought another man with a good experience, you know, because he's not a new man in this system. He has coached several teams out there in the top flight. So with his wealth of experience, let's hope that he can be able to meet up this task of bringing this team back to the top flight, competition.
Well, talking about Nigeria's encounter, you talked about Victor Osimhen. We understand he's right now in Turkey. Can he still make it to the Super Eagles camp ahead of the fixture this weekend?
Yeah, he will. From our latest report, I have it that tomorrow he will be arriving camp because he wants to stay back to at least put final touches, to some of the deal out, and that is why he's not come back, because a lot on his table right now. But I believe with his move to Galatasaray, I think it's now maybe a bit calm. He released a statement yesterday, shortly after he has concluded that deal, thanking the fans. It was such an emotional message that he penned down yesterday for the fans out there. And also yesterday, he also had to let go of his agent, talking about Roberto Calenda, because of his seriousness in trying to at least rescue him in the difficult situation where he was finding between the blue sea and the water, talking about the situation between him and Napoli. So for me, I think he will be hitting camp tomorrow if there is anything to go by the latest reports.
Why did you think he really let off the agent? He was arranging 2 deals. Lucrative deals, I must say, in Saudi Arabia. Yes, the one in Chelsea wasn't good enough.
The agent for me was selfish. I think he was just thinking about himself, what he can make, and that is why when the deal for the Saudi Pro League came up, he was maybe more like trying to push Victor Osimhen to get to the Saudi Pro League, because he knows that his cut will be much. It's just that the price tag from Napoli end couldn't allow Saudi to wrap up that deal. Then again, for Chelsea was not willing. They were not willing, rather, to meet up with the demand, the personal demand of Victor Osimhen. They had to say they are going to pay 75 million euros, which Victor Osimhen wasn't comfortable about it, and some other clauses that is attached to it, because he was strictly on loan if he comes to Chelsea. But then at that point, even at the deadline of transfer day, it is expected as a good agent for you to have struck a deal with any other club for your client, but he didn't do that. If he were to be agent like there is no way you allow his client to be in such a fix out there. So for me, with all these lapses from the hands of Roberto Calenda, and that is why I think Victor Osimhen, even this deal that he struck with the Turkish club, Roberto Calenda wasn't even a major player in the deal. It was Victor Osimhen, that did it, and you can't be paying somebody that is calling himself an agent, yet he fails to do his primary job of helping you to get a different club when the situation arises. So this is the reason why I had to let him go, because Roberto Calenda failed in his duty to be able to find a suitable club for him at the time when he needed it most.
Leicester City seems to be in a joyous mood after months of edition that has been reached by the Premier League Profit and Sustainability Rules independent panel. They could have had their points deducted from them, but now they can smile to the bank. Yes,
they took the case to court to prove their innocence. Yes, they actually infringed on the rule, but then they went to relegation because the rules state that you cannot spend more than £105 million in a space of 3 seasons, which Leicester City actually spent beyond that, but then they actually went to relegation in the 3rd year. So that cannot hold against them right now. Bouncing back from the championship, they still want to go back in retrospect to begin to dig an issue that have already gone. So they took it to the court, and it actually favored them, and that is why they are smiling right now.
Well, I hope that you can take it up a little. But just before we wrap up the show, there are some fixtures in the African Cup of Nations qualification bid later today. The Comoros Island is in action against Admiral Antilla in a crucial tie to see whether they can qualify for the Nations Cup.
You expect Comoros to at least win that very one.
Comoros are expected to win that one. We have another fixture as well, but we will have to return at 6 p.m. Nigerian time to give you a look up at what is coming up later today at the African Nations Cup qualifiers across the continent of Africa. But we'll have to just wrap up the show. Mike, Raheem Sterling giving jersey number 30 for Arsenal.
Yeah, good one for him. I think this deal actually favored him moving to Arsenal after Chelsea declared him a surplus to requirement because of his huge wage bill. I think Arsenal would be a good one for him. Don't forget, he's still very much relevant. At 29, he's a good player who have played in top Premier League club out there. Listening to Edu shortly after that he said that with the wealth of experience that Raheem Sterling brings to the table, he thinks he can help them to go far in the European competition.
Well, that will be it for this edition of Sports Talk. Like I mentioned earlier, we'll be back at 6 p.m. Nigerian time when we look at some of the very strong fixtures at the Nations Cup. Tanzania will be up against Ethiopia later today, and I can tell you there will be more to that because Sudan will be up against Niger as well in another Nations Cup qualifier here in Africa. Until then, remember, peace and unity are clearly pathways to progress. Always enjoy here on Atlantic Television Network.